So now we're going to write the method to append an item to the end of the linked list. So that's going to look like this. We're going to create a new node. We'll have that last item that was in the list point to the new node. We'll have tail point to the new node, and that adds it into the list. So there were two things we did here: last item and tail pointing to the new node. But we do have an edge case for when we don't have any items in the linked list. Obviously, we can't have the last item and tail point to the new node because there is no last item. In this situation, we're going to have head and tail point to the new node. So if you want to code this, these are the steps for doing the append method. Pause the video here, go over to VS Code and see how far you can get with this, or if you can write the entire method, and then come back and we'll walk through it. So now we're going to get into the code. So of course, with the append, we're going to pass it a value in order to create that new node. And it has that self keyword in the parameters. That's how you know it's a method inside of a class versus it being a standalone function. So we'll say new node equals node. We'll pass it the value that we pass the append method, and then the node class will create our node. I always like to code for the situation where these data structures are empty, like this first, where head and tail is going to point to the new node in this case. So in order to do this, we have to determine, is the list empty? So I'm going to say if head is none, which is the case here, we'll set head equal to new node like this, and then we'll set tail also equal to the new node, and now head and tail point to the new node. So let's take this code and add it in with the rest of our code like this. This is what we have so far. So now let's code for the situation where there are items already existing in the linked list. We'll say else, and now let's build out this else statement. So we're going to say tail.next equals new node. Okay, and that is tail.next. We're setting it equal to the new node like that. And then we're going to move tail over by saying tail equals new node. That moves that over and adds that node into the list. Now let's add this else code back in with the rest of our code like this. Okay, so let's look at what we've done here. We've created a node. We've tested to see, is this list empty? In this case, we're going to do this. Otherwise, we're going to do these steps here. The only thing left to do is to increase the length of the linked list by 1. And there's one other thing I'm going to do here, and this is completely optional. I'm going to have it return true. And as a standalone method, this is actually not necessary for the append method. But the reason I have it in here is in a few videos, we're going to write another method that calls on the append method. And that method requires a true or false to be returned. So we're going to look at this code in a moment in VS Code. And when we do, we're going to create a linked list that looks like this. We're just going to initialize it with a node with the value of 1. And then we're going to see if our append code works by appending another node with the value of 2. And then we'll print out the linked list with our print list method that we created in the last video to see if we have a 1 and a 2 in our linked list. All right. So let's flip over to VS Code. So I just want to point out that our append method down here, which we will look at in a moment, is a method inside of the linked list class. Sometimes if you're new at this, it's hard to visualize where the new code that we've written fits in with the rest of the code. So I just want to show all of this. We have our constructor for the linked list here, our print list, and then we'll scroll a little bit here. And that is our append method. Now down here, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new linked list with the value of 1, just like we showed in the diagram. And then we're going to say my linked list dot append the number 2. And then down here, we'll say my linked list dot print list. And then we should see 1 and 2 printed out. Okay, so let's run this. And there we have 1 and 2 printed out. So it looks like we have a working method for append.